we're about to face an extended period of life. And I don't know that we have the scaffolding, the psychological scaffolding to deal with that. What I hope will happen is that we have more people thinking about it, more people writing about it, and focusing on how do we create a new culture of longevity. That's really what I'm interested in.
I just want to quickly reply to that. I think that's an excellent point, Gray. And I want to bring up sort of a topic that threads together what kind of everyone has mentioned in different aspects here. So, Jules, you were talking about old, maybe outdated social structures, and Luis, you were talking about your Einstein living 5 years longer, etc. One thing to keep in mind, and also Gray, you were talking about the far future of cybernetic bodies and Ray Kurzweil. I wanted to thread all of those together. Like, let's say, okay, if we really want to consider the future of the human species, the existing psychological structures that have existed for thousands of years, the coping mechanisms that you mentioned, what's known as terror management theory in psychology, the idea that you know that you're going to die, and that's so crippling and terrifying, society needs to come up with ways to make that okay, like legacy, or I'm going to live on through my children, right? But something to realize is that even those psychological structures rely on a concept of the immortality of the species, if not the individual. That, okay, even if one day all my children die, then I'm going to live on through the waves of energy I've perpetrated throughout the universe. Right? What about entropy heat death at the end of the universe, where there's, the universe cools to the point where there's no life, no memory, no anything. Right? I'm saying, but in that case, right? So my point is, if you look at it that way, even the normal ways people derive from meaning require our species to survive, right? And that might require, getting off this planet, getting cybernetic bodies, maybe, right? But one way to help that is to accelerate the pace of human progress. And if you have people like, let's take one person, Nikola Tesla, who's behind basically almost all of the modern devices you use, television, electricity, radios, right? And he was very close to getting wireless electricity. If he lived 10 more healthy, productive years, we might have a wireless society now that's not having
in the 30s. Can you imagine?
No global war conflicts over oil. It's like, that's just one person, right? So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a little thought exercise with the people in the room. Can everybody raise their hand if they would live 10 years longer? If I said I could add 10 years to your life, who would take it? Okay, now let's say, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up if you're doing it. What if I gave you 50 years? Anybody everybody down with that? Okay, what about 100 years? Anybody lowering their hands? A couple people lowered their hands. If you're healthy. Depending on if you're healthy? Yeah. Maybe, okay, so 200 years. Anybody still up for 200 years? 500 years? Anybody still up for 500 years? 1,000 years. No, okay, so nobody. No, I'm still, exactly, 1,000. You've all won 1,000 years to your lifespan.
Check under your seats.
Yeah, you get 1,000 and you get 1,000. Yeah, no. Good, great. Okay, so I think that's really interesting because it did seem like there was a drop-off at about 100, and I don't know whether that has something to do with the fact that that was about the mortal lifespan that most people can imagine having is a 100-year lifespan.
I just want to quickly, if you remember for those of you who might have been here 2 months ago, we did a thought experiment that's totally related to what you just did, and this is something that I like to bring up when I talk to people about this idea. So I asked them 3 questions. Do you want to be alive tomorrow? Most people would say yes. Do you think that answer will change tomorrow? Most people would say no. Tomorrow I want to be alive the next day. Okay, leave those answers alone. Now let me ask you a 3rd question. Do you want to be alive to be 200 years old? Most people say, oh no. But by mathematical induction, the same question was asked twice, right? But you answered very differently. Why? And it's because of cognitive biases, just the machinery of the brain. There's a lot of things that we always make mistakes about, and one of them is how we're going to feel about things in the future. You might want to be like, I don't want to be 90 years old. But if you're 89 years old and you're super healthy and you love your grandchildren, you probably want to be around when you're 90.